Hi, everybody.
You log into
Let us get started. My name is Adam Hems. A warm welcome to everyone here and everyone online. Who here first timers? Well, Ben's a first timer. Oh, no one else? Everyone else is returning? That's good. Well, welcome back. Being some return visitors. It's really nice to see everybody. So for anyone online who's new, Ben's benefit, I've been running this group since 2016, and the intent of this is for learning, right? We do this in the evenings. This is a hobby. My day job is as a cloud architect at Microsoft, and this is something I do with the help of my friends. I couldn't do this without like Kim, who helps me out, and you met her son, Sean, and her friends who are greeting you on the way in. Couldn't do it without some assistance. So the intent here is for learning from one another. The cloud journeys I've seen over the years with and different companies have different business problems, but of course the same technology that they're using to solve them, Azure, right? And then this is an opportunity for folks to learn from one another's cloud journeys in a way that it's just not possible in any other way, basically. So tonight's speaker is Kim. I'll let you introduce yourself, Kim, on a topic we have discussed before, this one, but it is worthy of discussing again. It's been a year, a little over a year since we last talked about Azure Arc. And as with everything in Azure, it changes all the time, which is one of the things that I love about it. Who loves change? Anyone else really like change? Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, you're probably in the wrong room, wrong industry. Yeah, for if you didn't love change, really.
What's left over after inflation? Change.
Very good, James. Yes, thank you. So yes, it has changed enough that we thought we'd revisit this one, and we get questions about it quite a bit. So with that, and without further ado, oh no, wait, I have one other thing. I have two slides. Sorry. I have an event. So Microsoft are helping out with the piece of time. The ask is please scan the event code. This will, with your cameras or the link, it will resolve to a URL with some content that is relevant to the discussion tonight. So the documentation on Azure Arc that Kim is going to discuss, and also we've got a workshop also related to Azure Arc. It's out there. And so there's two sources of content that pertain to the event that you should be able to see.
Could you give us the password to sign into the network?
Yes. Yes. Houston Azure User Group, sentence case, no spaces.
Okay. Thank you.
Or use your phone. Use your phone to grab this one. So, okay. Everyone got it? Yeah. Okay. All right. That is what I have. So, Kim, go ahead. You should be able to do share now and then get your content up. I'll do duplicate.
Excuse me, Adam.
Question? Yes.
Yeah, and I don't want to take away from Kim's presentation, but would it be possible for us to do a quick introduction around the room just so that we can see who we have in today?
Go ahead.
Yep, sure. Well, hello guys, I'm Sidney Taylor. I'm a data and AI specialist currently working for Microsoft. I believe Azure Arc is a great platform. I want to extend my thanks to Adam and Kim. Pleasure to meet all of you guys.
Thank you. That's
He doesn't know who we are.
Yes.
I guess I'll go next. Hi, I'm Igor Yegin. I'm an AI developer for University of Houston and excited to see the presentation and use some Microsoft products in the process.
I'm Robert Torres. I just graduated in cybersecurity and interested in Azure and it's what it has for us. This is like my fourth time coming here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Liz. I'm a senior data analyst at PSSI. So I do reports, Power BI reports, SSI reports, and okay, analytical stuff. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, guys. Hello, everyone. My name is Andy. I work for Management Control, which is a software company. And we're pretty much use Azure primarily, so want to learn more about Azure Arc. So
Awesome.
Hi, my name's Ian. I'm a system administrator for the IRS and currently support the cybersecurity group. Most of my work is a normal Windows Server and VMware stuff, but hopefully we're going to migrate to Azure soon.
Really cool.
soon.
I'm Rodney Copeland, ATN. Independent consultant, IT consultant, been doing that for a while, so Azure is a piece of my business.
I'm Sridhar Udyavar. I work in Emerson. That's all.
Mike, you're up.
Yeah, I can go next as well. Tariq Khan, I work with Unicree and yeah, I just work in Azure infrastructure, architecture, DevOps, those kind of things.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Vaddi. Azure is what I do. I love Azure, everyone. Hi. And I knew Kim, I knew his name, I knew a lot of people here.
It is a regular.
A long time.
Yeah, long time
I'm
regular.
back here to update my knowledge, Even that one PLC already went through, but I want to play more because it can't. So this is what I want to do, and I'm doing it. Thank you very much.
So I'm James. I specialize in the modern desktop and I just come to monitor what Adam's wearing.
I'm Ray Almonte. I'm retired after 50 years of software development and project management. And I just love the concept of taking all that equipment and putting it in a big, box somewhere else.
Yes. Hi, my name is Quinn Stevens. I work as a data engineer for Honeywell, and I'm currently building out a lakehouse platform using Azure Databricks services.
That'll work.
Yeah. Cool.
Very popular.
Legit.
I already did.
I'm Sridhar. I work in Emerson as an architect and developer.
There you go. See, you didn't tell us.
Thank you.
I'm Zach Crabtree. I'm a security analyst. I work for a company called Insperity.
Okay.
Primarily identity, policy, and networking side Azure.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you. My name is Vin Kamath. I work for H&R Block and principal architect, working there for about 17, 18 years now. I do cloud architecture, enterprise architecture. Last couple of years I've been working on AI. Thank you.
Hi, Bill Stevenson. I go way back to when I would get Heath kits and we would solder in the resistors by hand. That's right. And, so you'd have great amplifiers and tuners that came out pretty well on consumer reports back in the day. Go back to Windows 1, seeing it in beta and compact, got a couple MCSEs, and I just really enjoy hanging out around the group. I'm more the business management kind of thing and entrepreneur So glad to be here.
Nice. Awesome. Adam, Kim, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you remember programming computers by moving wires around?
All right,
Floppy disk, like 3x5 floppy disk.
all right, go ahead, Kim.
Good evening. How's everyone doing tonight?
Very good.
All right. Thank you to our leader, Adam. He is a veteran. This is his passion. And as you probably know, we don't get paid to do this. But we do out of passion and love for technology and love learning. And I'm grateful to have Adam here to lead the group. So thank you, Adam. I'm sorry. Welcome. And, someone told me if you want to travel fast, what do? You go alone. But if you want to travel far, what will you do? You go together. But the fact you're here tonight, you're already ahead of everybody else. And thanks for being here. So let us look at Arc, Azure Arc, and how we innovate with Arc, whether you have on-prem data center. Most of my customer I work with are in hybrid situation. They have AWS, they have Google, they have data center on-prem. They want to they diversify their, infrastructure. They want to put in one basket. But what's the problem with that? Does anyone have idea? Yes.
Confusion.
Okay.
Or lack of leadership or,
Okay.
depending on the level of people you're talking to. So.
Okay. Yes, Sid, please educate us.
Maybe timing?
Okay. How about yes, Quinn? Yes.
I was just gonna say, if you're talking about managing a different platform's governance,
Yes, you're right about that.
big challenge.
Okay. So as an architect or an IT person, what do you think of how would you day-to-day operate? You go to different portal to see things? Would you like to have everything
No.
in one place?
What?
Exactly. And how do you enforce governance, policy, what else?
Identity.
Community, right? At your fingertip, would you go to different vendor and say, hey, I want to enforce this, and you have to, get to know AWS or Google and your data center. You force. There's no uniform. There's no consistency across all of your cloud or the infrastructure on-prem, right? So let us talk a little bit about that. So tonight, my colleague Mr. Moore is from Dallas. He's going to be joining us, co-present and also do the demo on Arc. This is our agenda tonight. We probably learn a lot with, what can we do with Arc? What is our core functionality? What does it mean by with Arc enable your infrastructure, right? And then we're going to go briefly over some of the enable server, Kubernetes, SQL Server, and the System Center virtual machine manager. Should I ask a question? If I don't know, I promise I'll get to you. So Mark, would you come up mute and talk a little bit about yourself, or can you hear us?
Sure, thanks, Kim. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. So Kim asked me to send over a bio, and I cut and paste something from a previous session I've done. My title has changed. I'm no longer a cloud solution architect. I'm what's called an Azure technical specialist. Still work for Microsoft, been in the industry, I'm not going to tell you how many years, a long time. And in next month, actually in November, I will be celebrating my 29th anniversary at Microsoft. So I've been at Microsoft for 29 years, and I reside in the DFW area, and I also run the Azure Users Group in DFW, similar to Adam in Houston.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Microsoft, for sponsoring our food tonight, right? Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Thank you. So to those of us that know me, don't be shy to connect with me on LinkedIn. That's my QR code. I'm not going to talk on my badges, but this is a little bit about me, who I am, and my community. So you feel like social networking, please scan the QR code. Happy to connect with you. Moving on. So with the, many of the customer here, well, my customer, most of Microsoft customer, they faces many challenges for the multi-cloud hybrid scenario. So what does it mean? Is anybody new to cloud or know what hybrid is? So what's hybrid?
Oh, on-prem and in the cloud.
Okay. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate that. So the complexity of such environment is that it's, have too many places to look and take care of, operational needs and compliance and what my cloud secure score is my, you have the baseline, and then do I have, how do I manage my security and incident management across all of my infrastructure in the public cloud and data center? And then the inconsistency, we talked about that earlier, and then regulatory, and what about the, applications or, servers that too much to keep up. How do I know when's the next release or patch is coming out, and is it out of support? Things like that. So those are the challenges that we learn and get a feedback from the customer. So as the environments evolve and requirements are evolving and changing from a day-to-day basis in terms of, company grow and scale with different apps and volume, how do you govern and operate across such, volumes of apps, and how do you diversify your infrastructure and how do you innovate with, on the edge, different stack of technology, and how to meet your, if we're a bank, what would be my obligation to follow the regulations and stay in compliant, right? Or with the government or DoD, how do I do that with multiple places to look at? So this is where Arc provide you with a single control plane that allow you to, a single stop shop, in another word. Any question there?
So, yeah, so I guess you're gonna tell me, so I'm probably ahead of the game. How do you get to Arc? How do you get to it? Through, on the portal or something? Through Azure?
Yes, so Arc is a service in Azure, and there are multiple flavors of Arc. You can Arc, so let's talk about what is it first? And then, how do we cascade it and use Arc and how to get to it? So Arc pretty much is a tool in Azure that allow you, it's free to the customer, by the way. It allows you to control or, run your security operation and govern it at scale. And you can project your asset or your object on-prem anywhere really into Azure as an object. And then you apply policy and governance around it. And to do that, you have to, depend on what you have, but you can deploy certain agent, and we'll go into the architecture of agent that would be running on your on-prem premises to be able to talk to the Arc in Azure. And the caveat here is to have a line of sight to Azure. So there's some disconnected environment that, let's say the rig, sometimes the satellite go around and you miss that. But as long as you have an internet connection, talk to Azure for policy update, you're good.
Yeah, I was thinking, if you don't have internet, you don't have a problem with the security anyways.
Yeah, but
That's not true.
Somebody might go and steal it, but.
what about human factor? Can I bring something to it?
I mean, and also if people can access or not, whatever the service you're providing.
Yeah, that is true. So with Arc, you can innovate practically anywhere, right? And so we're going to go over but so if it's free to the customer, the control plane is free, what's going to be, you're actually going to pay for it. There's a slide on that. So in a nutshell, this is what Arc look like. So you have a multi-cloud environment, on-premises data center, on edge, the IoT device in the field. This is an answer for your, single point of control plane, single pane of glass that gives you that ability to be the master of all domain in your environment. So how do we innovate at Arc? So practically you can develop cloud native and operate anywhere. And you can harness the data inside from cloud to edge. And how do we do that? There's agent that actually talk to your devices, server, VMware, your server on EC2 on AWS or GCP. And then you apply Azure policy and security policy. And once you enable that, there are other services that complement Arc, like a Defender for Cloud and Sentinel, that would work together to let you innovate and provide you the flexibility to meet your regulatory obligation and compliance. So with governance and compliance here, Arc provide you with a guardrail to apply Azure policy. Is anyone familiar with Azure policy? Thank you. So what do you think why do we need a policy?
To prevent people from building things they shouldn't or doing things they shouldn't. It's the guardrails for keeping things in check.
Thank you. Yes, well put. And consistency of your environment, right? Because first of all, if I am a newbie or I don't know what I'm doing, I can deploy expensive resource for one, because I want to mine Bitcoin, who knows?
Can I just say that anytime I heard the word policy, it drove me crazy because it meant they were trying to stop me from doing what I needed to do.
Absolutely. And then the policy, it's provide a way for us to kind of like stay operational without breaking the the environment. And doing so, our productivity and our environments are much more conform, and we stay out of trouble. And of course, the policy also allow you to flag it when it's out of compliance. You have the ability to self-heal or say, well, if it doesn't match, go ahead and remediate itself, or you can just flag and say, hey, don't remediate. I'll review it myself, and then I can fix it later. Another option there. But let's see, Arc, how we do that. And, with Arc, you can streamline your security postures and, in Azure, what are you control plane really? Does anybody can tell me, educate me, like, what is control plane? What's the first thing when you interact with Azure?
Portal, yeah.
It's the ARM, Azure Resource Manager, right? So with Azure Resource Manager, there's a whole bunch of API that you interact with Azure AD, right? And so is, different services within Azure, right? And whether you are, in different environment, Arc provide you the ability to unify that and apply the same capability that Azure cloud, internal policy, security, as well as governance across all your environment. So when we say we Arc enable our infrastructure, what does that mean?
What did you say, Kim?
Arc enable infrastructure, right there. So what does it mean for me as a user?
Yes, it's a infrastructure enabled by Arc.
So basically, you're leveraging Arc to consistently govern across your security, your 5 pillar of WAF, right? In terms of, your visibility into your Azure resources, or in AWS, are you up to date in terms of patch management? Am I secure? Are there breaches? What do I have? And how do I have any legacy stuff that is going out of support or end of life, right? And also auto self-heal if there is a policy violation, right? And how do we monitor that? So on the top, what you're seeing is Microsoft Defender for Cloud, all that services in Azure is when you Arc enable it, those services are available to you to leverage and provide a consistency across all your environment, whether you multi-cloud environment and your on-prem infrastructure. That's what it meant by Arc enable infrastructure. So your, all these services are working for you. Any question here?
So even if it's AWS, all of the things that you have on the top level there can be used to help you manage all the assets, even if they're in AWS or on-prem.
Yes, right, that's correct. Yeah, through policy, it can see, the agent on your AWS environment can see and report back to Azure. You have a little dashboard. We can go through the portal in a little bit.
So when it comes to policies, are you talking about like a Windows policies or OS policies?
It's Azure policy in general, as a baseline.
Like when it comes to AWS, what are those policies? Is that like AWS its own policy can be controlled by Arc, or is?
This is going to be Azure policy. So what you're seeing is we applying Azure best practices in terms of, the security compliant baseline that your org defined in the policy. So it's running against that. Yeah.
But we're only applying that policy on the infrastructure that's connected to Azure Arc on AWS or wherever.
Yes.
So it's only applied to like an EC2 instance or any on-prem hardware that we have.
As long as you have an agent that is enabled and registered, yes, it can see.
And leaning on your mouse. And also databases and.
Correct.
And so is the database. Yeah. And later, Mark has a remarkable GitHub that gives you a set of query that you can pin to your dashboard, will tell you exactly what you're missing, the amount of SQL Server, the core, the version, whether you're up to date and patch or you're missing some critical patches. And it's such rich feature that I thought it was like home run for me if I were a DBA or as an infrastructure manager. I would want to know what is running, and how much does it cost, right? So I'm going to stop here and then go over a quick overview of what is it like to have Arc enabled and where do you go in the portal to see it? What does it look like really, right? Sorry. How can I stop this to go to my?
That's escape.
I'm gonna get out of here and I'm gonna go to like a portal so that you know that I'm not staged. It's live.
Completely real.
Okay, so everybody familiar with the portal, right? And you probably work on a daily basis. So Arc, find it, there it is. So these are all the Arc resources when you enable and add it to your, this is my single pane of glass that I'm looking at. And later we have some different query we can share with you guys to pin it on your dashboard right here. But as you can see here, we have Kubernetes, we have different machine, we have, VMware as well. And in the VMware, this is, I think, this is the vSphere we looked at. And then here's the inventory. Okay. So what it is that what you've seen here is free, but when you actually enable, these are the hosts, right? But these little machine here in here as a guest OS, when you enroll it, that's when you start paying for the, the Arc services. Then you can look at the, different version. Let's go back and look at, how do I know where is my inventory? Like, where's AWS? So there you go. I have a few Amazon EC2 Linux here, some Ubuntu. Let me see if I get any GCP. Yeah, it was removed.
Does this only manage Microsoft applications on all these devices, or would it also take care of Oracle databases and,
I'll show you. So instead of Oracle, I have SQL Server. And it's all connected. And in SQL Server, you can take a backup, you can restore it through one portal. I'm not, if you have SQL Server RDS running on AWS, I can do the same thing through here. I don't have to hem up and then go through AWS and do that. I'm just in one place, and it's all through Azure portal.
That's still a Microsoft product, SQL Server.
That's correct. Yeah, whether it's run on AWS or.
I mean, what about non-Microsoft products? Can you still manage them with Arc?
Can you give an example?
Oracle.
Oh, yes. I think we have Postgres. Hey, Mark, you think Oracle's on there? I don't know. I see Postgres and SQL Server.
Postgres, yeah.
You can manage the machine that's running Oracle all the way to the point that if it's running on Windows, you can do a remote desktop to it. And then it's like you're there, right? You can do anything you want to in Oracle. But do we natively support an Oracle database in the Azure Arc portal? No, we don't. That part's just SQL Server.
How about Linux?
Yeah, Linux.
Yeah, we do support Linux, and we support. So I should point out, Azure Arc is actually a suite of products, and there's two major sides of that suite of products. One side runs on Kubernetes, and it enables you to run Azure services like SQL Server Managed Instance, Postgres, machine learning, Azure Functions. There's a number of different services that you can deploy to a Kubernetes cluster that can be on-prem or in one of our competitors' clouds like GCP and AWS. And then the side of the house that I primarily work on, I do work in that side of the house. I can demo those products if you want to see them. But what is primarily what I'm doing these days are where I've got on-premises servers that I want to manage to the Azure portal. And that's the side of the house that we're focusing on primarily tonight. And those servers are either going to be your underlying OS, which is Windows or Linux, and SQL Server.
So in another word, if you have an Oracle, as a OCI Arc won't, it's not within Arc. If it's run on a VM, like infrastructure as a service VM, yes.
So Kim or Mark, so the value that I guess Microsoft sees in Arc, and I see it also, is that you can manage on-prem devices wherever through one control plane. And Microsoft starts getting paid, it's not free, when the agent establishes itself on that device.
So there are free services like this, the inventory, being able to do this inventory and the dashboards I'm going to show you. There's no charge for that. Installing the agent on your machine, there's no charge for that. If you decide you want to monitor or protect all of your devices with Microsoft Defender, we do charge for that. We charge significantly less through Arc than we do if you were to just buy it straight out. What are some of the others? Purview, I think, is on there. Admin Center, which I'll show you, is on there. That's a paid for service. That's where you can actually go all the way down and just do a remote desktop from the Azure portal if you want to.
Yeah, I can show you.
But basically, you can approach any data center, and they don't have to do anything other than, I guess, establish an agent to get to their machine, and you can use Arc to manage their devices.
Yeah, there's permissions involved. Like you can't just plug in a USB, a thumb drive into a machine and suddenly have access to servers in that data center. You have to set it up. You have to have credentials, all that kind of stuff. But yes, essentially, you can install the agent on the machines that you want to control and manage from the portal, and then do so, right? Manage them from the portal. And also with Azure Policy, it is used a lot to control what you can and can't do. It's also used to enforce compliance in terms of naming conventions, tagging. There's a number of things that it's useful for that can help you group things together in a meaningful way that'll be consistent.
Is it the vision that what IT department does, for example, controlling all the workstation or devices, like when you are working in a company, they give you a laptop and all those, right? Are those devices you are planning on?
Oh, you mean like Windows 10 and all that? Okay.
Yeah, like any device. It can be even including.
Yeah, that's a different product.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think Arc see the window device as server. They don't see it as a window device.
Yeah.
So for policy, Intune is a better product than
Right.
Arc.
Yeah, that functionality is Intune, where you want to manage desktops in your environment, register them with work, deregister them, make sure they've got software updates installed, all that stuff that's done through Intune.
Intune, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But in terms of like Arc, it sees as a server, and whatever the server functionality of Arc, it has it. It will conform to that. But if you're looking for the desktop, it's not.
Yeah.
Great. So next, any question here? But this is an overview. And Mark going to take over for the SQL Server side of thing, where he has an amazing lab. So Mark, do you want to take over, or you want me to go through this?
Yep, I'll take over. And you want me to go through some of these slides? Yeah, we can do that. So this is some of the stuff that you can do with Azure Arc in a diagram. One thing I want to point out here is by default, this is communicating back to Azure. It's pushing metadata back to Azure over port 443. I happen to work in financial services, where security is like this huge deal, and pushing anything over port 443 in financial services is a big no-no. So, yeah, there we go. Thanks. Or I'll just talk and the slides can catch up. So what we do is we also offer, for those security conscious people, we also offer private endpoints into Azure Arc. So if you've got an express route, or even site-to-site VPN, if you've got an express route, no traffic goes over the internet. It's all going through an MPLS to your local demarcation point, through private fiber to an Azure data center. And so nothing's actually traversing the internet. If you've got site-to-site VPN, it is traversing the internet, but it's in an encrypted tunnel. And there's several different options for how you want to encrypt that and secure it. But they're both very secure. So if security is a concern and you see a slide where it says, yeah, you're going to talk over port 443, that's the default, but that's not the only way to do it. And then this is kind of just calling out, this slide's just calling out some of the stuff that we've got. I think we've talked about. If you go for the server portion, you can do monitoring. You can actually go in and look at your event logs, look at perf mine counters, remote desktop, open a remote PowerShell session, and I'll cover those.
Can you enlarge the slide?
Yes.
Make it full screen? Like you're showing a slideshow.
Yeah, like the presentation, the little icon next to the slider on the bottom. There we go.
There you go. Thank you.
I think this needs to be painted out some more. There's something on the left that's not. There we go.
Good.
Sunshine. That's okay. No, I got it. That's fine.
So with Azure Arc, there's two components that will let you do all the monitoring and management of the server. I can install updates, I can check for updates, I can monitor all that kind of stuff. And the Azure Arc enabled SQL Server portion is a plugin. It's a module that it relies on the Arc enabled server. So you can't have SQL Server without having the server component. You can have the server component without having SQL. So if you've got servers that don't have SQL, you don't need to install the SQL agent. But if you have SQL servers that you want to manage through the portal, those need to have the server agent. And if you install this, if you go to the portal, I'll show you where to do that. If you go to the portal and say, hey, I want this server to be managed by Azure Arc, it's a single PowerShell script, and it'll install both the server and the SQL agent. And like I mentioned, Defender there.
Right.
It's all right. Defender, I'll just go real quick. Defender is a solution you can purchase through the Azure portal for your on-prem SQL servers. The SQL best practice assessment, which is also very good, it's a free service. That's a service that years ago, it used to be a service that our services organization would deliver. And this was back before everybody was connected to the internet. And they would come on site and run a bunch of tools on your SQL server and check and see if you're following best practices or not. And if you're not, what are you not doing right, or what are you not doing that's a best practice, and how do you remediate that? So now it's free with this product. You just set it, you schedule it to run that once a week, however often you want, and then you go into the portal and view results. And if we just want to jump to the demo, I can show all of this in a demo rather than talking to slides. Yeah.
Take it over.
Okay.
So all these
Okay.
capability and features back into Arc. What Mark is going to share with you is, I'll let him speak, sorry.
Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
So this is the single pane of glass Kim was talking about. And this is a big long Kusto query that I wrote And let me go to here. And of course, I'm not logged in. I'm in some private preview stuff here at Microsoft, so I have to do multi-factor authentication.
Best practice.
So this is, paste this in the chat. I apologize. I'm used to working remote. So if you guys don't have access to the chat, I can post a comment on Meetup with this link. But my GitHub site's markim555, and this one's called SQL SPOG for single pane of glass. I'll run through how to install the agent here. This is a sample dashboard. These are servers, these are databases, and here's some charts about how many servers you've got and what kind of servers they are. There's a number of different dashboards here that you can look at. The one that I just showed, I just created that one or updated it not too long ago, and that's all SQL here. This is what the query looks like. I'm checking for build numbers, so most of it's just, you know, if you're running with if it shows up with this build number, you're running this SP, this CU, that kind of stuff.
And so that these are coastal query. You can run in a resource graph. You can pull these from resource graph.
Okay. So that's this one, and I'm showing you. I had a partner give me some time in both AWS and GCP, so I spun up a virtual machine, installed SQL Evaluation Edition or Developer Edition on it, installed the agent, and now it shows up in my portal. And I can pull where that machine lives from here. This is part of the actual machine metadata. I'm not pulling this from anywhere. This is in my query that if I don't show it as anything, if nothing comes back from where this, then I'm assuming it's on premises. You could put in, you know, whatever you call your data center here, however you want to. This is just in code that I put in that query. And then here's the Azure SQL stuff I've also got running. So it is truly a single pane of glass. To show you what the resource group looks like, which is what Kim was showing you, it looks like this. And so I've got resources here. These are the machines. And then this is the SQL portion of Azure Arc. And so let's just jump into this guy. And this is actually the DB1 and DB2 is actually my production database servers. If you could call it production, it's a lab. It's all dev test, but this is the main one. The other SQL servers I've got spun up were either for a specific demo or for this demo. And so these are two physical machines. They are running SQL Server, and they are also running SQL Server databases as an availability group. And so it works that this product, Azure Arc for SQL, works. It works if you've got SQL servers in an availability group, but it is not aware that they're in an availability group, nor does it have any metadata about that availability group. In this one, I've got a primary and a secondary, and if I go to look at the databases, these are databases I've got on this server, and if I were to go to the secondary, it would show none, right? Because all the databases, the availability groups on this is the master for that one at the primary node.
So this is installed on-prem server?
Yeah, these are all on-prem. I'll show you my lab. It's probably a mess in here. So there's my lab. And so it's running, those two servers are actually these two servers right there. And then on top, I've got a 4-node Hyper-V cluster, and I've got file servers and NAS storage and all kinds of fun stuff.
That's Mark Data Center.
Yeah, that's, my team teases me. They call it the North Texas Azure Data Center.
So one question, you have configured all of these databases on Arc. Are you configuring it manually, or it has a way it can detect all the databases when you?
No, all I did was install the agent and everything showed up.
Oh, gotcha. So it detects everything.
Right. So when you
Right.
when you install the agent, it's on like on board for you.
Oh, I see. So it knows everything, like.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's actually show up in Azure as an object. It's assigned an ID and an object in Azure for you.
Okay. If you have a custom application, what happens? Like
I mean, inside the machine.
inside machine, your own company's custom applications.
I assume it's on a VM, right? I don't know,
Yeah,
like a
it's on-
physical machine. The
This will
application-
just show the databases behind that.
It's all in the
I have an
database.
application that I have a couple applications, sorry, that write to this database. The alias, the listener for this database is DB, and I've got a couple of applications that write to DB databases on DB 24/7, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. It's nonstop. If it crashes, I immediately start it back up again. And actually, the primary application I've got will survive anything having to do with the database going down. It'll just sit there and keep retrying. And the only thing that'll kill it is a power outage. And I've got battery backups as part of my lab as well. So the power has to be out more than about 10 or 15 minutes.
And also the IAM Arc, click on that, the RBAC. You can also leverage Azure RBAC to assign the, access control.
Yeah. We've given people access to this resource group. There's a couple of people who like to do this demo, but they like doing it from my lab, so I gave them access to it via this route.
But RBAC is only when you have Azure SQL or SQL on Azure, right? But since your database is on-prem, does RBAC come into picture there as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so I gave access to the resource group that all these resources live in. And so the people have access to, and earlier I was talking about remote desktop and remote PowerShell scripts or PowerShell sessions. So people have access to the resource, they have access to this dashboard. They can click and see, the best practice assessment. But if they try to go and do a remote desktop, they're not allowed, right? That's another whole set of credentials you need to have. Number one, you're gonna have to be able to have credentials in my local domain here, which nobody has except me and my wife. And you're going to have to, there's a special group of, a security group that I have to put you in to be able to even think about doing that. So I would have to add you to the resource group, add you to a security group to do some of the more intrusive things like log into the server. And then you would have to have credentials within this domain locally to have access to that server. So it's 3 hurdles you would have to jump through to get to it.
Okay.
This is the free part. This is best practice assessment. And this does not cost. And here you can see I've got, this is a best practice assessment. I've got 1 high here. This one, I was actually reconfiguring my lab and the domain. And so I was getting errors while I was doing that. So I know these are okay. I don't have to worry about them. It was temporary. It was just, I was running these without a domain controller for a brief period of time. As I was rebuilding my lab, I added a bunch of servers to it recently. And then here's some other things that are medium, and then it goes all the way down to low. And then these are informational. It's like, you should probably disallow results from triggers, and then it'll give you details about it and give you an article on how to do it if you wanted to do it. So this is pretty valuable for a free, for something that's free. You can set this up on all your SQL servers, run the best practice assessment, no cost. That you don't get charged for that. If I were to go over to Defender, and now I've got the same sort of thing, only this is security. And it's saying, hey, you've got these things that are wrong, and you need to go take care of them. And here I can see I've got telling me file integrity monitoring solution's not there. Here's how to fix it. I want to, and I can do this quick fix. Sometimes it's just got a button that says fix it. There it is. Yeah, so on this one, I can just click on this button, fix it, and it'll fix it. And then it's got manual remediation steps where it's like, well, I don't trust this button. I don't know what it's going to do, so I'm going to go do this manually myself. And they'll give you information about doing that. I could make it trigger a logic app, so I could say, go through all the high ones on all my machines, and once a day I'm going to trigger a logic app and email everybody in the DBA group or whoever that I found these problems. I could even assign owners so that, let's say there's one person or a small group of people out of my DBA group that I want to assign these issues to. And so I can assign owners, and then they can use it, and they can check off if they've completed that task or not. So it's a pretty powerful tool. Again, if you were to just go into Azure and say, hey, I want to run Defender on an on-premises server, it would cost significantly more than if you do it through this Arc server and Arc SQL Server. And then what else do I want to show? I'll show you. So I come back to the dashboard. I go to DB1. And now I've got, over here, you see this little, this a server. So this is the SQL Server of it. And if I come over here, here's all the things I can do to it as a server. And I can go into Windows Admin Center. This takes through the Azure portal. I live in Dallas Center, so I'm actually making a round trip my desktop. And so this is, the machine, its name, my domain, what kind of machine it is. It's a PowerEdge R620. It's got 512 gig of RAM. It's got 2 CPUs, 32 cores, on and on. I can do, this is real-time monitoring of CPU. It's a SQL server, and it's not using a whole lot of, and it's like if I do database refreshes in Power BI, it'll use as much memory as I've got on this machine. Right now, it's not doing anything other than writing to it. And I can look at networks, I can look at the firewall, I can look. I haven't played with, I'm assuming that's like a sniffer trace. Performance monitor, Perfmon, PowerShell, I can open a remote PowerShell session to the machine. I have to log in, right? So it's not going to just let me do it. I have to log into the machine. So, top.
While you're over there, in the window, the server view there, can you show the Arc connected machine agent as well, or that's something we're not there yet?
You mean like how to install it?
No, I mean, like, it's, you already installed it, right? So in the Window Admin Center, there should be, agents, Arc connected machine agents, where you will see like metadata services and the guest configuration and extension managers.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. Do you want to walk me through it?
And you can do the install apps. Can you go to the other install app? Okay, so can you look for like, there's a service on there called Window Admin Center. There should be an install app, an agent on there, and as well as the Azure Connected Machine Agents. Yep, this is the app that we use to connect to the server, right? And then there should be another. Under install app again, can you search for keyword connected machine agents? Yep. So these are the agent, when you install it, it will pick up the machine and register to, when you onboard, these agents are showing up.
Right.
And it actually have a line of sight to Azure.
Yeah.
Take it, Mark.
Try this one more time. And here's the machine. So I'm actually logged into the machine. This is the availability group, SQL Server Management Studio. I can do anything, right? I could manage, if I had Oracle on this machine, I could manage Oracle from here. If I had DB2, I could manage DB2. So this is, at this point, you've got complete control. And like I said, there's several hurdles you have to, like me with complete admin access to my domain and everything. It took me forever to get this, to satisfy all the requirements just to be able to log into this machine. I had to, I had to add myself to a security group. So I did that. Well, then I still had to do something else. And then it's not, it's very secure is the point I'm trying to get across. And it's not something somebody's just going to stumble on. There's multiple steps to deliberately give somebody access to this.
So would this act like a Bastion?
Yeah, it's the same thing as Bastion, only it's for, does Bastion work for on-premises servers? I thought that was just Azure VMs.
It is just Azure.
Okay. But yeah, it's the same thing, right? It's essentially, it gives you the ability to access machines through the Azure portal without having to go through a site-to-site VPN.
So in your example, you are preventing RDP from external and allowing only RDP to your machine through this Arc, or is it how you configure?
Yeah, it's probably the RDP protocol. I'm certain in the back of my mind, I'm certain it's not port 1433 or 3389. It's something else, and it's going through this agent to accomplish this.
Gotcha, okay, yeah. So it's going through the agent to show this screen, basically. Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
It's going through the agent to show this screen of.
Right,
Windows.
yeah, it's not, I don't think it's using remote desktop. I mean, it may be that protocol under the covers, but
Gotcha.
you're not, it's not the same thing as opening up 3389 on your firewall and okay, have at it.
I see, gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. So what else can I show here?
So to set this up for Azure Arc, I mean, what are the firewall requirements? Like, what do we need to put in firewall for this to communicate to a network?
Got it. So nothing. Most corporations allow port 443 to go through the firewall. Most corporations don't like sending stuff out for 443, even though it's encrypted. Or at least most of my customers who are highly security-minded financial institutions like Fidelity and T. Rowe Price and capital markets kind of customers. And so in that case, we set up something in Azure called a private endpoint, which is we set up, the only way you can get to this is through Azure, a networking endpoint through the Azure network, and then you would have to get yourself into the Azure network either through a site-to-site VPN or an express route.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's, you basically have some way to connect to your Azure network that's very secure, and then you connect to it once you're in the Azure network.
So this would act like a inside the VPN type of thing.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha.
So it's just, Azure networks start with 10 dot, so it's going to be a 10 dot IP address that you'll connect to, as opposed to going across port 443 over the internet. And I'm just speaking about my customer base who is highly sensitive to security. And then to install it, I'll run through that real quick. Go to resource groups, on-prem. So now I'll come down here and know I went to this resource group first, so it populated this. I do everything out of South Central. I can pick Windows or Linux. If I pick Windows, it's going to give me a PowerShell script to run on the server. If I pick Linux, it's going to give me a Bash shell script. I give it the server name. I don't have a server named that. If I'm in an environment that I can access the internet from a server, but I have to go through a proxy server, I can specify that here. I can specify the proxy server address. I can do license types. And here I'm saying I want to do a PAYGO license, PAYGO. And this, I've seen customers do this where they've got a bunch of SQL VMs in another cloud like GCP. I happen to be working with a customer doing this. In fact, I was on the phone with them today about this. And it is actually to their advantage to do PAYGO licensing through Azure Arc than it is to rent licenses from GCP, the SQL license. If I wanted to, if they're on-prem servers and I've got LNS license and software assurance, LNSA, I can pick this option. If I have a VM running somewhere and I want to bring a license from on-prem to that, and that license has SA, I can pick this one as well. And then if I'm using some other type of license like Evaluation Developer Express, basically anything that's it's a license, but it doesn't require, it's not a paid license, then I can select this option. And then if I've got a server with multiple instances on it and I don't want to include all the instances, I can specify which ones not to include. And then tagging is just, this is a nice way to group things together. It's just a key value pair. And I can have as many of these key value pairs as I want. So I could say project and then give it the name of the project, or data center and give it the name of the data center, or, you know, whatever, however I want to do that. It's just completely up to you what you want to call the key and what you want to make the value. And it's just for reporting purposes and keeping things grouped together logically.
And billing, I mean, if I were to pay for it, I want to charge back the right department, right?
Right. And then here's the PowerShell script. Basically, you can download this. And I can open it. It's basically just this script here. I'll open it. And so, do we have folks familiar with PowerShell on the call? Otherwise, I'm not going to run through what the script does. If you know PowerShell, I can go through it and explain what's going on. If not, nobody's there.
You want him to walk through the script? Anyone want him to walk through the script? Yeah, why not?
Oh, why not? Yeah.
Yes, Mark, go ahead.
Okay. So what it's done here, since I went through the portal, it's pulled all of this information from my subscription. It's pulled that it's in this subscription, this tenant, this is the resource group it's going to live in, this is where that resource is going to live. It's picked my license type. This script allows for parameters of a service principal. So by default, if I don't specify a service principal, it's going to prompt me for credentials. It's going to do what's called a device login, where it'll open a browser session. It'll give you a code. You log into the browser session with credentials. You type in the code. It authenticates, and the script keeps running. If you wanted to do this at scale with a bunch of servers, you would set up a service principal, which for those of you familiar with service accounts on-prem, it's essentially that, only it's an Azure Active Directory service account. And then we go through here and it basically makes a call to download the MSI. If it fails, it's going to give you a failed message. And then if it is successful, it's going to install the SQL and the server agent. And if you want to modify this script to work at scale, let's see where it is. You're going to have to change this to a variable. So like if you want to make a file and put a bunch of server names in it, have it read that file line by line, you're going to have to pull the server name in and change it here and here for each of the servers. Otherwise, it's just going to recreate this object in Azure as this server name and install it on every single server you got, and the last server you installed is what it's going to be. So if you want to do this at scale and read a file with a bunch of server names in it, just make sure you turn the server name, however you format that file, that you store that in a variable and it changes for each line of the file. You could use a reader to read that, where you open the file, create a reader and read through line at a time and pull values out from there and go do a remote PowerShell session to each server and install the script. There are actually some additional deployment options for at scale on the server component of this. Like I can use Ansible, I can use Azure Power Domain Policy, I can use System Center Configuration Manager. There's, I think, 4 or 5 different ways you can do it. And then you can say, oh, by the way, when I install this, there's a checkbox. When I install this on a server that's got SQL Server, also install the SQL agent. So if you're doing this for SQL, you could use that server deployment methodology and give it a list of SQL servers, check the checkbox, and you'll get the SQL Server agent installed as well. All right, so I think that's it for the demo portion of this. At least my demo portion. Kim, do you want to, do you have anything else? Do you want to cover some more slides or?
Yeah, could you talk briefly about the Kubernetes? I think A8.
Yeah, let me see it. Do you have a slide that's got the architecture for that?
Yes, actually I do. So
It's got the one with like SUSE and Ubuntu and Red Hat and all the different flavors of Linux. I'm looking for it now. Oh, it's 26, slide 26.
that's additional services, right, for Arc. Once you Arc enable, these are additional services that you can turn it on and off if.
Right. So these are, so the other half of this is you can deploy Azure services on Kubernetes. Got spun up, and you can do that in like Google Cloud's got a PaaS Kubernetes service. AWS has a PaaS Kubernetes service. We have our own PaaS. Like you could spin up this stuff in Azure. We kind of beside the point, but you can do it. And so you can take one of the other cloud vendors' Kubernetes service, connect it to Azure, and then start deploying Azure services to it, like SQL Managed Instance, Postgres, Azure Monitor, all the things I've got up here. You know, machine learning. There's a number of different services you can deploy to that Kubernetes cluster. So if you've got Kubernetes on-prem, you can connect the Kubernetes cluster to Azure and start deploying Azure services to it. And then vice versa, the part that I've been focusing on is if you've got servers on premises and you want those to appear in the portal, you can do that. So that's the part we covered tonight. There's a whole nother part where it's the opposite. You've got Azure services, you want to run them on-prem.
And we lost your slideshow. Could you unplug from
Sure.
the room?
Sorry, I was looking at the slide on my side. I assumed it was up. Yeah, it was slide 26. Here we go. So these are the Linux, some of the Linux environments we support to run Kubernetes on. And these are some of the additional services you can run. And then for the Kubernetes part, there's a slide somewhere that's got a list of the Azure services you can run. I don't know if that got put into the stack or not.
I think I saw you that Kubernetes slide, Kim, further along.
Okay.
You had it up.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
For 36,
36.
I think.
Yep.
Slide.
There you go. Okay, so you can run, if you've got something called Azure Stack HCI, running on premises, that's basically an appliance. Do we still have that as a set of VMs that you can run? Is that the dev kit? I remember having it running on my cluster for a while, several years ago.
Yeah, still a dev.
Yeah, dev kit. Okay, so but if there's an appliance, we partner with hardware vendors. If you run AKS or Azure Stack HCI on Windows Server, you can deploy our Kubernetes service to the Azure Stack and get Azure connected Kubernetes that way, at which point you can deploy your own apps, or you could deploy like data services of SQL Managed Instance and Postgres, and there's another one. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Yeah, you can deploy apps at scale with GitOps. And then we support the following Kubernetes clusters, which is AKS, which is our, PaaS Kubernetes, just plain old Kubernetes. So typically what I do is if I spin up a Kubernetes cluster to demo this, I'll start with Ubuntu. I usually spin up 5 VMs. I don't know why 5, I just like that number. I'll create a Kubernetes cluster. I'll connect it to Azure. And at that point, I can start deploying Azure services to it. We also support OpenShift and EKS and GKE. EKS is Amazon's Kubernetes PaaS service, and GKE is Google's Kubernetes PaaS service. And we support that with hyper-convergence infrastructure like Azure Stack. And then I haven't heard of Platform. I've heard of Canonical, but I haven't heard of Platform. But those are also Kubernetes clusters that we support. We've got something called a Jumpstart page for each of these, which will supply you with instructions on step-by-step how to do it. Just look for Azure Arc Jumpstart on your favorite search engine. And then what's the next slide after this one? It's 36. Oh, okay.
The Jumpstart Mark mentioned is wonderful to kick off, but do watch for the cost. Be conscious about the number associated. As soon as you deploy it, it will, spinning up services, and you have to pick a different flavor of the deployment. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, when I said a 5-node cluster, keep in mind I own the hardware, so it costs me nothing. But my costs are already sunk, right? I paid for the hardware. But if you're spinning this up in another vendor's or another cloud or our cloud, Kubernetes can get expensive fast. So that's a good warning. You do want to watch your costs very closely on these.
There's a cost calculator in that Jumpstart to give you an idea of what you're going to pay per month if you were to deploy that flavor of Kubernetes or Azure Arc.
Yep. Yeah, and I've got a little demo. It's out on the GitHub site, my GitHub site. If you want to search for it, it's deploy Azure Arc data services on AKS, and I spin up an AKS. It's a PowerShell script. It does everything. You're ready to go after it's done. And I spin up a 3-node cluster, and if you don't turn it off, it'll cost you close to $900 a month just to sit there and run. And I've also put together a script that will list all my AKS clusters, and that'll toggle them on and off. Anything else, Kim, you want to cover?
Yeah, I think, let me see anything. Yeah, I want to go over the server. I think Mark have shared some of the Arc enable server. If you guys wanted to see something else, let me know, but.
So one question. How is Azure Arc compared to CrowdStrike or some of those?
I think
as security related.
Huh? It's more like a comparison with Defender for Cloud. I would say it's our competitor for Defender for Cloud.
Which one?
Defender for Cloud.
Defender for Cloud.
Yeah, that's CloudStrike. But Arc is a comprehensive solution. Extend Azure services to your non-Azure VMs or infrastructures. So Arc is not a security specific.
Okay, gotcha.
Am I right, Mark?
Yep, that's right. I'm not familiar with CloudStrike, but if it's a security product, that would be equivalent to Defender for Cloud, Microsoft Defender for Cloud.
I don't know of a competitive solution like Azure Arc.
Yeah, I don't know any.
I don't know there is one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
We use CrowdStrike, but I don't know exactly how they use it. It's IT department does it, so it's just.
So then it's different servers like Azure Arc does here?
I exactly don't know. That's why I was just asking. Because it sits in every server as like the agent. It does something, so exactly I'm not aware.
Yeah, so CloudStrike, Defender for Server, you cover that, EDR, Intune, endpoint protection, that's CloudStrike. I know they are very aggressive and competitive to defend the cloud.
Yeah, like antivirus. It's like an antivirus.
Like antivirus.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha. No, I'm not so.
But not Arc. I mean, Arc is a very big umbrella of everything.
Okay, big, yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So, so Arc would be like, I don't know, Arc would be compatible with both Windows, Linux, and Ubuntu kind of stuff? Like you would be able to run it through all that?
Yes, so Windows, Ubuntu, those are VMs, right? So if it's a VM, it's Arc will cover that, whether you're running in AWS, GCP, or in your data center. Yes, Arc will, you can enroll and
Cross connect.
yeah.
Yeah, so Ubuntu is a flavor of Linux, along with Red Hat, SUSE, and a number of others. I think Oracle's got their own, which is really Red Hat under the covers. And so from an on-prem standpoint, if you install SQL Server on top of it, number one, you can manage the machine through Azure Arc. And if you install SQL Server on top of it, you can manage SQL Server on top through Azure Arc as well. Or if you want to deploy Azure services to it, then you would have to build a cluster using that flavor of Linux, whatever your favorite flavor is. If yours is Ubuntu, I use that because it's free. It's got a free license. So I usually spin up Ubuntu and put a Kubernetes cluster on top of it. But you can do the same thing with Red Hat, SUSE. I managed to hack the SQL install script for Oracle. Linux, you could probably do the same for Kubernetes. I don't know. Just go in there and find out where it's looking to see what Linux it's running on and lie and say it's Red Hat.
So I just want to bring to your attention what is free in Arc and what is pay, right? And the control plane, we talked about that earlier. So those are free. Extensions, you can see those extensions on your inventory list, policy. You're reaping the benefit of Azure policy into your non-Azure real estate, I would call it, tagging, inventory and stuff. So the minute that you have like a vCenter or vSphere, any guest VM that's running on it, that you're managing of, keep tracking of that, you have to pay for that. And it's, nominal fees, but still those are paid resources. Any question there? I know that we're running into the hours, so I'm wondering. Question? Yes, sir.
So you guys mentioned that Azure Arc doing some of the same things that regular Azure would do, you would charge a bit less for it?
For Defender, yeah, that's right. For Defender, there's also one piece I didn't cover that's kind of important, that we also charge less for. So Defender's one, if you want to turn on Defender for an on-prem SQL Server or Windows Server, that's less expensive than if you were just to go into Portal and deploy it to an on-prem server. The other thing we do is we, starting just like within the last month, if you have extended support for either Windows OS or for SQL 2012, either one of those, and you want to purchase an extended support contract, for lack of a better term, it used to be done through services as an amendment to your Premier contract or unified support contract. Now we're delivering that through Azure Arc. So if you've got SQL Server or Windows Server 2012 and you want extended updates for that, for whatever reason you can't upgrade, we are delivering, the Azure Arc is the delivery vehicle for those updates. So you sign up for it, purchase the service, and get the updates through Azure Arc.
So that would be for like SQL?
It's for the server as well, not just for SQL.
Yeah, it's mostly server,
Oh, okay.
but it's for both, right? But the server gets Server's got a lot more attack vectors than SQL Server does. So you get more updates for Server than you do for SQL. Not to say that you don't ever get an update for SQL, but they're not as frequent.
Thanks.
And the takeaway here is, so what? I mean, Mark, so what? What are your value added here, right?
Yeah, so your value add, initially is a single pane of glass, right? I can see they are. I can see the SQL they're running. I'm going to add Windows to that as well, so I can get the Windows build number, so I'll just add more Custo to it to go through each individual possible build, assign it to something that humans are used to seeing, which are service packs and cumulative updates. And so having that single pane of glass into my SQL environment is valuable. I know there are competitors to that with like Quest software, SQL tool vendors has similar things to that. This is a fairly new product and we're adding to it all the time. So I do know that monitoring of SQL Server is on the roadmap. It's in private preview. It should be public preview within months. That to me, that's valuable to be able to sit there and monitor my SQL Server as well as my server. That's going to be very valuable. And yeah, you get support across the whole stack. And then being able to manage with Azure Policy is valuable. You also get SSO with Azure AD. You can use Azure AD as your sign-in for SQL Server if that's something you're interested in doing. So you could actually force people to log in to a SQL Server running on premises using Azure AD. That's available. The PayGo is another big one where if you've got the need to rent licenses on a SQL Server running on-prem or in another cloud, and you've got the option to do that through Azure Arc as well. So it's a framework of capabilities that lights up a lot of stuff that's valuable, and it's a framework that is going to continue to be built on in the future. So if you've got an idea of something that's not there that you want to see, let me know. I've got access to the product group. I can put it in as a request. I will tell you that our product groups run in 6-month semesters. And if you've got a good idea and they decide to do it, chances are it's going to be 9 months to a year before you see it.
So in short, what Mark's saying is the product team, Microsoft product team, is trying to make your life simpler by innovation.
Yeah.
Are there any co-pilots associated with Arc to help you do some of these things?
I don't know of anything on the roadmap for that. Copilot's more, I've seen it, and I'm not a Copilot expert, but I've got access to Power BI Copilot. I've got access to some of the other Copilots. And the ones that we release, it's more of an authoring assistance tool. Like if I have Copilot for Power BI, I can ask simple questions and it'll generate reports for me. Same thing in Outlook. I can say, hey, write an email and send it to these people and say this, and just dictate to it, and it'll put together a really nice, well-formatted, well-written email. So it's more of a creative type tool than a search tool. I'm sure there's a way. I've thought about doing it. I just haven't done it yet. I'm sure there's a way to get this information out of Azure through an API set somewhere. And if I can figure out what that API set is, I can pull it into Power BI and start writing Power BI reports on my resources that I'm running in Azure and on-prem, and do all kinds of fancy reports. And then if I wanted to use Copilot in Power BI, I could ask questions like, what's the percentage of SQL servers I have running on-prem versus in Azure versus GCP versus AWS? And I mean, it's fast. It'll be like a couple of seconds and it'll get a report.
So one last question. The companies go for SOC 2 compliance and all of those things when it comes to management of their assets. How exactly Arc would help on those things, like managing various audit process and various compliance related stuff?
I would have to, I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to ask the product group. Do you have that specific certification? Can you type that in the chat or?
Yeah, SOC 2 would have to list out all those assets and manage who can access which assets and, all of those management related stuff and anything like you want to upgrade something, then it would have to go through certain process and all those things. So I don't know if you guys provide something that can ease all of these.
I don't know if Defender for Cloud would cover your specific compliance standard that you're talking about, but Defender for Cloud does offer recommendations based on compliance standards. So if you have the Arc-enabled machines into Azure, it can run policy against them and help with compliance on those types of standards.
I wasn't sure what that is, but now you mention it, I think these, there's a security baseline policy that you can apply to roots of your landing zone. With that come with a policy, and then with that policy, Defender for Cloud will pick up some of that in the Azure Security Center, not Defender for Cloud actually. And then that will give you the capability that which is integrated into Arc. If you enable that in Arc, if you enroll your machine in Arc, and you turn on the Defender for Cloud, those automatically pops up and you can pull report.
Yeah, it'd be good if you guys provide some kind of database of all of these asset management in the sense like what assets, who owns that asset, and.
Oh, that's more like a CMDB type of, I see. Yeah, I don't think.
And then who can access and, what is done to those assets, like what kind of upgrades or, is there any upgrades due for those all those management? It's basically keep track of, what needs to be done on various assets.
So what is your use case?
Oh, that would help organization in the sense to, better manage and being compliant of SOC 2, because these are very things that are very much needed in organizations. Because those are the things that actually cloud related environment lacks. We have to manually do all of those, list out what assets do we have and all those. Nobody provides such
Just me personally, I think it's a joint responsibility because think you as a company,
right.
You know who's the owner, we don't. I mean, outsiders.
Yeah, somebody would have to have all those logs basically. Exactly.
Tagging, somehow, but I think, it's not in the product. I don't know, right now, we don't know, we don't have it, right, Mark, or?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing. Can you repeat the question?
No, I was recommending saying if you guys have something like that, those SOC 2 related compliance, it would really be very helpful.
Like SOC compliant, security compliant.
Security compliance, yeah. Right. Yeah, it's basically all these SOC 2 related compliance organizations out there, like KPMG.
Right.
They go through all these processes that companies follow, and then look into it and then audit them and then certify them saying, yeah, you guys are SOC 2 compliant or you lack in these processes.
It sounds like a new product, whoever startup venture, go after it. I think there's a market for that.
Yes.
I know we have tools that can do that. I don't know if it's on the Arc roadmap to incorporate that into Arc. Like you can say, hey, I want to be Sarbanes-Oxley compliant, you know, and set it up and say, here's all, and we've got a tool that says, here's all the things that you need to be compliant with that, and go and check for it. And it'll come back after a while and say, oh, you're good, except for these 5 things. You're not doing these 5 things. You need to turn that on or do it, whatever it is. PII is the big one in financial services. You can't put any PII data in the cloud without some secure measures in place.
Yeah,
There's one. There's a bunch.
of. And you know, Purview is another suite of product that probably get into the area of compliance and security and auditing as well. So I don't think Arc is covering that capability simply because other services are.
Yep.
So to take away, I mean, there's some of the links here I want to share with you guys if you're interested in learning from the very scratch, from crawl to walk, and then you pick up and run with Arc. If interest, let me know. I'll share this slide deck with Adam and post it. But any question from Mark? No?
Single question left.
Really? That was easy? Come on. Well, thank you for joining us. You know, as always, pleasure to see you, and learn so much.
Thank you. Let me just share deck again.
Thank you, Mark, for helping out.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to share the QR code again because we had some content. I want to make sure everyone got related to this. And I'll close it out. Okay, so yeah, QR code again, just because there's some content on here that might be relevant. I wanted to bring to your attention. Yeah, thank you once again, Mark and Mr. Kim, and thank you all for coming out. Really appreciate everyone showing up again. This is see you all. So next month we have Azure Bicep is going to be on the agenda. So infrastructure as code has a bunch of features that you don't know about. Let me tell you, so it does some cool stuff by returning speaker James Cairns, a member of the community this time, rather than a colleague of mine. So looking forward to that. That should be a good one. He's talked with us twice before, and his has been some of the most popular presentations. So that will be a good one. So don't miss it. Hope to all see you again for that next month. Thank you all. There's a lot of have a good evening. Please take some pizza as well if you'd like. Have a good amount.
But you might even be able to use it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Fantastic. That's
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.